What's up, guys? Welcome back to Chits and Chats, and today it's going to be about the chats. So today I want to talk about something that has been weighing on my mind pretty heavily just because it's something that I've been going through in life recently, and I have made this already sound way more important than it is, and it's actually how to get your non-gaming friends into board games, okay? So I think everybody's going to have a different experience with this because everybody has different groups of friends, different interests and stuff like that, but I think I just want to talk about my experience and a way that I've gotten some friends recently into board games, and I've tried to come up with some kind of like recipe, if you will, you know what I mean, to where I can introduce them slowly into board games, but also really pique their interest at the same time without overwhelming them, okay? Because I think I played like Code Names with somebody one time, and they enjoyed it, and I was like, and I just brought brass like the next day, and they were so overwhelmed with just it was just drier than a bag of saltines crushed up into a 64 count crown box. They were overwhelmed by the experience, and I actually played another one, Scythe, with one of my friends that was not really ready for it, and by the end he was so brain dead he could not count his incredibly below average score of about 24. I thought I was gonna have to make him soup and spoon feed him that night. SpaghettiOs, okay? He was useless. So what I've tried to come up with is a way to introduce people in general into board games without overwhelming them, but also making them excited, making them interested. You know what I mean? Eventually, just join us in the deep end where we're all kind of drowning. And yeah, that's the best case scenario right there. So in general, I think that for me, the way I usually talk to people at board, first of all, I have to bring it up in conversation. And they're talking about Xbox and PS4 and stuff like that. And if they're talking about gaming a little bit, then I usually just I kind of segue into this conversation about board games, which is a very hard thing to do. I mean, it's not hard, but it's a little bit challenging to talk to people about board games because they have this idea of Monopoly and Sorry and, you know, Pictionary, things like that. You know what I mean? So it's weird because they're like, are you trying to, like, they're like, are you trying to play Monopoly this weekend? Friday night? They don't really understand what it means to play these board games, right? They just have this idea of when they were growing up normally. A side note, if anybody's willing to play Monopoly with you, just forget all this and just say, yeah. You know, when are you ever going to get that chance again? So what I usually do is kind of start off with games that I consider basically bottom tier, which no hate to these games. I'm not trying to bash anything. And I know people really enjoy these games, but literally they can be played regardless or not if you're sober. And it will not affect a single thing, okay? It requires almost zero thought, zero existence, zero prior knowledge of the freaking human alphabet. Whoa, my God, I'm sorry. We got off track there. I don't hate these games. I actually, yeah, sometimes they can be fun, but games like Exploding Kittens. So I usually be like, dude, have you ever heard of Exploding Kittens or anything like that? Because for some reason, these games are just universally accepted by people. So I'll be like, dude, have you ever heard of Exploding? Wait, why do I even own this? So sometimes they'll be like, oh man, yeah, I played that game. And I'll be like, dude, these games are sick, right? They're pretty fun. And they're like, oh, dude, such a good time. I will literally get up and leave. Not really, I'm kidding. But there are a group of people that really like those games, okay? So that's how I kind of start off that type of thing. It's just a lot of people play these types of games, you know what I mean? That's all they have, that's all they know. And it's really kind of sad to me. For some reason, people that really like Exploding Kittens or those types of games usually like these. So I realized that there's just a group of people that really like social deduction games like this, and this is kind of where their interest peaks. That's where it stops. This is it. They just really like these games, and I think what it is that some people are just too extroverted for these types of games. They don't like just sitting there just diving into that like deep strategic mind space, trying to figure out the best strategies and options. They feel like it's just too much work, or they feel like they'd just rather be doing literally anything else. They'd rather be hanging out with people. And I think that's why they're willing to play these types of games and they actually enjoy them, is because they have to. It just has to be in this like social setting where there's just enough people there with their eyes on them. You know what I mean? Maybe they just want to impress somebody. I don't know what it is. I think they just love being around other people and love people telling them they're good at things. I don't know what it is. I enjoy these games too. I'm not gonna lie, but I enjoy these games as much as I do like a heavy strategic game. So sometimes this is it for some certain type of people, and that's fine. That's totally fine. Okay, but these are other games for those types of people. These are great games. Resistance, Coup, Social Deduction, pretty strategic, not highly strategic, but pretty strategic. Those are good games as well. So after that, for those types of people, I would also do any of the Unlock series. Okay, I've played all these. They're so much fun, and they're basically like escape rooms, which is something, and these games can all be played with like multiple people, 1 to 6 players. You know what I mean? You can have a whole bunch of people there. You can play this on your own if you want to, but you can also play with a group, and these are great games to introduce to those types of people in any type. Okay, because they just reveal this new thing they've never heard of before. And it's just kind of crazy to me that a lot of people haven't heard of these types of things. But this is basically an escape room in a box that people will play these types of games. And it might even get them into, they might be like, bro, what else do you have? You know what I mean? Like what else is out there? And so you might be able to go from there. You know what I mean? But those types of games, so the bottom tier where you can start with in conversation and just in playing are the social deduction party games. Yes. Those types of games right there. Now, then you have people that are more willing to play other types of games. So then I'll be like, oh, dude, have you ever heard of Settlers of Catan or anything like that? And almost every single time somebody has played, like for some reason, almost every person has played Settlers of Catan in some instance. You know what I mean? At some occasion or getting around family or friends. Somebody owns Settlers of Catan in almost every single family. Or group of friends. So yeah, somebody's almost always played Settlers of Catan, and that's a great sign. Now you kind of have to figure out if they enjoyed it. If they say, not really, then you kind of just backtrack to then you kind of go back to Unlock or the Resistance or Coup. You can be like, dude, there's some party games, man, you should try, and maybe that will just introduce them and really get them excited about these types of things. But if they do enjoy these types of games right here, Settlers of Catan, and even Ticket to Ride. If they have never played Ticket to Ride, this is the next step, okay? So really what I would do is go from Settlers of Catan, talking about this, seeing how they like it. If they enjoyed this, then you go to Ticket to Ride, okay? Ticket to Ride is another one that usually, they're just always on the same shelf for some reason. People who've played this game have usually played this game as well. But Ticket to Ride for me is a little bit more strategic. It's a little bit less random, and it requires a little bit more thought. And this is a good gauge of where people want to go. If they don't enjoy this game at all, but they enjoy this game, it's going to kind of peak right there, I think. But if they do enjoy this game or are willing to even try it or be like, dude, that was actually pretty fun. They might be a little stressed out, a little overwhelmed because this is a stressful game. I played some crazy games, some really highly strategic games that require a lot of thought and just, hours of just deep critical thinking. And this one is still one of the most stressful games I've ever played. And so this is a great one after Settlers of Catan to go to. So I recommend starting with the lowest, going to Catan, and then Ticket to Ride. Now, if they like Ticket to Ride, where do you go from there? So this is a good game to get into after maybe Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan. But for me, I just wanted to point this out. This is kind of in the same caliber tier as Catan and Ticket to Ride. But for me, the best place that I go after conversations about party games, and I forgot to mention code names as well. This is just a good game, man. This is such a good game for anybody. I will bring this to any group, any amount of people. I don't care. This is always a good game. So highly recommend code names as well for that. But where do I go after Catan? And where I usually go is right here, Pandemic. So the way I just in the middle of conversation, I'll be like, dude, have you ever heard of Pandemic? And they'll usually almost 100% of the time. So yeah, I guess we could just say 99%. They say no. And it blows my mind that people, and including myself, who had played Catan 3 years ago, had never, not even once, found some random targeted ad about this game or any of these other games. These legends out here like Seven Wonders, any of that type of stuff. I mean, I could be on speakerphone with my mom and we could be talking about the COVID pandemic. Later that evening, I guarantee I would see a targeted ad on Facebook about Pandemic Legacy Season 0. It's wild that a lot of people have not heard about this game or any of the other legends out there like Seven Wonders or Castles of Burgundy. Those games that are legends in this arena. Of all the games I own, I believe that this theme is the easiest to digest. It is incredibly hard to get people excited about herding sheep. It is just this theme is just what it's just people just accept it. It's just people like this game, okay? I know why. I mean, I like it too. Frankly, I'm sick of it, okay? But I love that it exists so that I can get people into other games, okay? But I do really like this game. I played it so many times now that I'm just like, okay, well, can we just skip? Can we just go to something else? But this is a great game. It is a gateway game. This is the game that got me into board games a long time ago. So I highly recommend going from, these types of games where we have Catan, Ticket to Ride, and Splendor, and first we have these party games, then we go to Ticket to Ride, Splendor, and Catan into Pandemic. Okay, because Pandemic it shows people that it gets rid of this stigma that all board games are either Monopoly or Dungeons and Dragons. It really does. People love this theme. They love the end of humanity type of thing. They're just into it. People get really happy over that. Now, where do you go from Pandemic? Okay, so Pandemic, here's the interesting part. This shows people that there are themes out there that are, I don't know a better word for it, but like cool. You know what I mean? Just cool. All right, so this is a cool theme. But once they've seen that there's a cool theme out there, they're actually more willing to play games that aren't as cool. But before I move on from that, I would also highly recommend talking about Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders, I would not play this with just one other person the first time because it's not a good experience. That's why you bring Seven Wonders Duel. So these games right here are awesome. They're just great games that bring you into this next strategic place. This was one of the first games that. So this game right here, Pandemic, is obviously you guys probably know about this, but it's more cooperative. It's about saving humanity and all that. Okay, but this is where like you hear the word. I think you hear for the first time, besides Settlers of Catan, you really get into resources. Okay, this is where you begin to see resource management, and it's not just resources, obviously, but it's a lot of resources. And this kind of teaches people about this economic resource management type of thing in a way that is it doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like you're playing a board game, really. It feels like you're doing something that is it's like a party game still. And this really is a party game. This one obviously is just for two people, but both of these games are great for people that enjoyed Pandemic. Even if they didn't enjoy Pandemic, they still may really love Seven Wonders. And if you're playing with one other person, 100% bring this game. This is just, the art on it is great. The rules are not hard to explain. That's one big thing you have to watch out for. Don't shock people with rules. Okay, this game is light on the rules. It's light on the eyes. And it is just perfect for that next place of excitement for people. Like after this, people are like, oh my, I can't believe, like they had Pandemic, then they have this, they can't believe that these things exist. And one of my buddies was like, dude, where can I buy this? And I was like, dude, Target. He's like, what? Are you kidding me? You don't just go there for leggings? I'm like, dude, basically, you can buy this game. I mean, you can buy this game pretty much anywhere, right? Where there's a website. So it's super easy to get your hands on, and they probably passed it a million times and didn't even know it. So this was really exciting for a couple of my friends to be like, dude, I can't believe this has been there. And since, if they enjoyed Pandemic, it's like, okay, they trust your recommendation, so they're willing to try. And so Seven Wonders Duel, amazing to get people into, and Seven Wonders, perfect games. And it gets, once they hear like collecting resources, now that they've gotten familiarized with collecting resources in a way that seems kind of, chill, if you will, that allows them to kind of become accepting to that term, collecting resources, okay? Because ultimately, we're trying to get people to play Agricola, okay? Agricola is the best game ever made. I don't care what you say, it is the best game ever made, okay? Please keep watching this video. So where do we go after Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel? Now, I realized I tried to break out on like a family game night where people actually enjoyed games. I tried to break out Trois, and Trois was a very bad choice for that type of environment where people don't really understand these complicated rules. And I realized that I had forgotten how to play a bit. You know what I mean? There were some rules I had to get. Here's what I've realized. When you're explaining rules to somebody, if you break open that rule book again, everybody checks out. You know what I mean? It's not, you don't want to break into that rule book after putting it down, okay? So I had to do that like probably 12 to 15 times. It was a horrible experience. So that was probably more my fault than anybody's, but it's still a very complicated game. So there's actually two games that I recommend right after this, right after Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel. And if you're playing with one other person, and then 2 games that I recommend if you're playing with multiple people, okay? So if you're playing with one other person, I suggest Carcassonne, okay? Carcassonne or Castles of Burgundy, okay? Castles of Burgundy is a bit of a step up, okay? But let's start with Carcassonne. So Carcassonne is great because it's very easy. It's pretty exciting since there's random draws from a bag and you get points constantly. So if you see people checking out, they don't even have time to check out because they, you know what I mean, mentally check out because they're always getting points. You're always doing something in this game. It's quick turns. Nobody's waiting for anybody, and you just play. You play it out to the end, and it's a lot of fun. And the scoring at the end is interesting. Everything about this game is interesting and fun. And this also kind of brings people into a place mentally where they're starting to see a lot of these little guys. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're ready for the word meeple yet. Okay, so just hold off on that, but you can just say these little guys, like this guy. So those types of things they're beginning to see and like, oh, this can actually be fun. What? So Carcassonne is a good game, okay, to break out after what I just mentioned, okay? Now, Castles of Burgundy has been my... Oh, yes, yeah, this is still for one other person. This has been my game that I've brought after all these things. And I'll tell you why. So this one is a legend. First of all, I can say it is a legend. People just, there's a certain stigma attached to like legendary things. You know what I mean? So when I'm like, dude, this is one of the best board games to ever exist, and it's almost universally accepted as one of the best. As I blow off the dust, I've recently played this actually like twice. So this is one of the most legendary games ever exist, and regardless if people like it or not, you cannot deny that this game is not a legend. And it's a great one. And the reason it's so great is because it is elegant. I love that word, is elegant, because what it means is that essentially there's not very many rules. I mean, there are a decent number of rules. And I also like that there are enough rules to where people are starting to realize that, okay, this is kind of heavy. It's starting to stretch. It's that stretch of the brain. I've realized that the brain is essentially a muscle. I mean, it's absolutely not, but it basically acts like a muscle in the sense that you have to stretch it in order to make it stronger. And in these games, stretch it in a way it's never been stretched before. It truly is, it's really mind-blowing. One of the first games I ever played was Viticulture, and I remember the rules explanations for what I consider a medium to light game, now it might as well be Patchwork, was incredibly difficult to understand. It was overwhelming to me. I had way too many choices. I felt like I had listened to an entire rules explanation, and I didn't know how to start. I was like, I don't know what to do right now. So we basically watched while one person played for 3 people. Not very much fun, but it was ultimately a good time. But it was very hard. Now that game would be super easy to understand. You know what I mean? It's about as easy as putting together like an IKEA shelf. Okay, it's super easy. But anyway, this game starts to stretch the brain a little bit, and again, it's elegant in the sense that there's not very many rules, but there's so much strategic depth that you have to really start to use critical thinking. This is the game. I literally tell people, I told one of my buddies, I was like, look, this is what it means to play board games. This is the first game you're going to play really where it really means to play board games other than Catan or Ticket to Ride, but this is like really what it means to get into this hobby. People that are ultimately going to like strategy are going to be into this type of game, and they're going to enjoy that strategic depth because it's something they've never seen before, really. And all of the different options of things you can do in this game, there's a substantial amount of things you can do in this game, and everything is very rewarding. It's very satisfying. There's a lot of points. I don't want to introduce somebody to a game like Agricola where you're literally just punished the entire game. This game rewards you almost constantly, even if you're horrible at the game. It still makes you feel like you're doing great. You know what I mean? So it's just a good game to get people into next, okay? So that is after, so those are if you're playing with one other person. Now, if you're playing with a group, okay, I highly recommend, this isn't my highest recommendation, but Azul. Azul is, again, very strategic. It shows people that there's other games out there than just these random, family games like, Pictionary and stuff like that. But it's also very strategic. It's a little bit cutthroat, but in a fun way. Like, I've never been mad. I have been mad, but I've never been like super mad about a game of Azul. You know what I mean? If I'm playing with a wife, obviously it's a little more, a little more sensitive, a little more touchy. But it's just, if you're playing with a bunch of people, it's fun. It's so much fun to grab these tiles out. It's beautiful. People appreciate the beauty of it. They can see that games are beautiful, that there's a lot of production quality in these games, and that they had no idea existed. Because they're, you know what I mean. The nicest thing they'd seen was the golden thimble in Monopoly. So they can appreciate how beautiful this game is. And this is another super elegant game. Not a lot of rules, an incredible amount of strategic depth, and very fast turns, okay? People are usually just like this. And that's what you need at this stage, okay? Now, here's my highest recommendation for a group game where people aren't really used to these types of games, okay? And you could go straight from Catan. I would recommend like Catan, then Seven Wonders, Pandemic, and then this for like group settings. Castles of Mad King Ludwig, okay? I actually have an insert for it, so I'm not going to lift it up too much so I don't have to, you know, the avalanche doesn't happen inside the box. I think it already did, actually. I think that was the sound we just heard. But anyway, this game is one of my favorite games. I appreciate it so much because not only is it beautiful in the sense that there's just a lot of different types of tiles that you can that have a lot of very intricate detail to it, but it's just a great game because there's so much player interaction. Right now, you don't want to introduce to a game that is multiplayer solitaire. You want to introduce a game that has heavy player interaction because people come together to play games so they can hang out. And this one it just allows you to play your own game here, but it also is the challenge of setting, you know, you have to set the value of these buildings that people want. It makes people angry. It's this first time where people are going to be very like upset or like, oh man, dude, come on, man. You know, that emotional attachment to be like, that they're going to remember. It's going to be a memorable experience because they get to build this thing that they can see. You know what I mean? A lot of games you don't really see what you're building here. Even Castles of Burgundy, it's kind of hard to see what you're building a little bit because it's a little bit more abstract. But this game, you can see exactly what you're building. You can see this thing unfolding before you, and you can also see the reward of setting a good, you know, when you're the architect or the master architect and you set this price, and everybody's so, you know, they're so upset, but they have to give you the money, and they just are like, oh, dude, I can't wait for my, you know, to get a little bit of revenge. It invokes this emotional memory to this game that is just so much fun, and I highly recommend this game because I think people will walk away wanting more. Now, After you've gone through those types of games, like all those games we just mentioned, there's another game that I highly recommend going to next. And that is going to be the one that has the absolute cult following, and people I don't know, people are either going to like or dislike this video because of it probably, but Terraforming Mars. There's no denying that this game is really great. There's no denying that it doesn't matter that it looks like stock photos from Pexels. This game is still amazing. It doesn't even have to have good art for it to be as good as it is. And for me, this game is a little bit too long. I do really like it. It's not my favorite game. I keep it almost specifically because it's incredibly satisfying. Like you by the end of the game, you know, you have control over when it ends. You also have control because, you know, depending on how much of those things you're putting, those mandatory requirements you're putting out onto the planet, you get to control the time limit. So by the end, you could just be raking in so much just of everything that it just makes you feel it's just fun to play sometimes. You know what I mean? It's a race. It's a game that feels like a race, and I love that. I do love that it's one of the first games that feels like an actual race. And this game, people like Mars. For whatever reason, people just like Mars, okay? So when you bring a game out like this that is about Mars, people are like, oh, they're just immediately interested, okay? They'll literally, if you start trying to tell them the rules, or if like, dude, like, trust me, they'll literally put their finger to be like, shh, let's play, okay? Maybe that's just me, I don't know, hasn't it happened to anybody else? Anyway, so Terraforming Mars, highly recommend, okay? Because the rules are, again, not very hard to understand, and when they start seeing the cards are incredibly detailed, so it's very easy to just, you know, it's very intuitive. You just look at the card, you understand what to do. And the game can go on a little bit long. This also kind of introduces people to game length and how some of these games can be pretty long, but they're usually so immersed in their own strategies and own just desires to play this game, or just, you know what I mean, like they're just enjoying it so much that it doesn't feel like the time is even moving, okay? So this is a great game to get into next. I've had a lot of success with people playing this game and then buying it immediately. They always like, this is the game, like they check out you can literally see them pull out their phone and just check you can tell that they're checking out, they're doing quick checkout on Amazon. This game it's literally been shipped before they finish playing. So this is a game that a lot of people, I will come over their house and see this on their shelf. I'm like, are you serious, bro? Like that quick? And it's still in shrink wrap, but it's totally fine. They're gonna introduce it to their families and get more people in. It's just gonna spread like a plague. So that's Terraforming Mars. I highly recommend it. Okay, so that is the next game, the next step. It just introduces people again to the new game length, to the new like amount of critical thinking, to the beauty of a game board, and these a little bit more intricate rules where, you know, you have to really collect resources. You have to manage resources well. It's basically like an economic, you know, simulation, but in a fun way with a theme that people can get into. It's such a genius game. So after that, if you can get people, what I've realized is, if you can get people to really enjoy Terraforming Mars, you're pretty much set. You can pretty much introduce any game and they're going to be willing to try it. So my experience is after playing these types of games, I have, they've always been like, dude, what else is out there? They're just really excited about it. Once I get them excited about it, I know that I only have to buy half the amount of games I used to because they're going to buy the other half. I mean, what I mean is they're getting excited about it and they can enjoy it just as much as I do now, and I'll have more people to play with, which is awesome. So now you're not completely out of the woods yet, okay? You still need to be careful with how dry a theme is. You need to be careful about how heavy a game is at this point, because they're getting excited about something. You don't want to snuff out that flame immediately. You know what I mean? So some games can do that. Definitely not. Definitely do whatever you do. Don't listen. If you're one of the few people in this world, if you're in the 1%, the 0.01% of the population that enjoys a good day of lignum, that just sounded weird coming out of my mouth. I don't like the way that sounded. Lignum is a game. So if you are one of the few people that enjoy a good game of lignum, don't bring it. Okay, resist. If you feel like finally, like even if it's the last board game they ever play, it'll be worth it. It won't be. Okay, just don't bring the game. I cannot get a single person to play lignum with me. I'm almost willing to sacrifice one of the people I'm getting into board games just to try to play a game of lignum and just to do it. Okay, and honestly, I feel like I'm good enough friends with them. They'll even feel bad to tell. They'll feel bad. They will literally lie to me to make me feel better and be like, dude, that game was pretty fun. And I'm okay with that. But don't bring lignum, okay? And I would even maybe hesitate to bring brass, because brass is pretty dry, even though it's a great game. One of the games that I don't think that this is even in the same caliber as like the top games, but another game that I would highly recommend is Scythe. Okay, Scythe is another game where you're not quite yet introducing farming or harvesting wheat or collecting wood and timber and stuff like that. You know, wrought iron. You know, people aren't necessarily ready for that. Okay, but Scythe is beautiful and it has a theme that is just it's unlike anything else, and it's very exciting. People see like the 3D mechs or whatever, and it's more of a risk style game where a lot of people are into risk, and it kind of brings back that feeling of risk-ish, even though it's completely different. It's more of an economic game than a war game, but people still, they look at the board and they're just kind of amazed. They're kind of mesmerized by how beautiful it actually is. And so this game kind of introduces, again, a more intense version of resource management, a more intense version of moving around a board and doing things. And it also introduces the fact that art in board games is something to be appreciated. It really is. It is a beautiful, beautiful game. It's really it's as far as art goes, it's a masterpiece, I believe. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played, and I played it a lot. So that is another game to definitely bring. As far as it's an economic Euro basically, but they feel like they're playing this war game with freaking robots. So that is another game to definitely do after, you know, all of these, okay? So that's like the first heavy, it's not a heavy game, don't get me wrong, but it's going to feel heavy. But Scythe after Castles of Burgundy makes a lot of sense. And then, guys, after that, you're going to want to move on to the king of all board games, guys. The king. Don't mind these extra decks that I probably will never play with because there's already enough cards to last you a lifetime. Okay, but I just do just look at that. The king of all board games, Agricola. Sorry if you guys don't agree, but we can't agree on everything. But then you can start introducing. This is actually the next game I'm going to play with one of my buddies. Actually, this is a game I already played with one of my friends who bought it immediately. He loved it, and he went over to teach his family, and he had no idea how to play, and so they just put it away. But one of my buddies is so excited to play this game after playing Castles of Burgundy and Scythe that I can't wait, man. It's going to be such a different experience. This is one of the most intricate and tactile games where you see something unfolding in front of you. There's almost nothing like it. Where you see this thing being built in front of you. It's so stressful. The pressure is absolutely... Some people don't like stress. I love stress in a game. And I don't like stress. But I love stress in a game. And I love a game that punishes you in a good way where it's like... It's not punishing me where I'm like, okay, this game is boring. There's no reason for me to do this. This game makes you want to beat it. It makes you want to win. And yeah, so you can start introducing games like this. And I would highly recommend... So once they played Agricola... And if they enjoy that, you're in. You can start doing all other kinds of games, all types of games. It doesn't matter anymore. Another one, Gaia Project. Highly recommend. Gaia Project is absolutely incredible. And Gaia Project is going to introduce factions and things like that, where there's so much variety and so much variability and there's so much just different kinds of interaction and strategic depth and in-game goals and individual round goals that it just blows your mind. So that is another great one to go to after all that. But now I'm just getting into board games that I love. So my top 10 list. No, but guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed that chat. I just really wanted to talk about it a little bit, and I'm really curious to see what your tier list is. So if I come up with one official tier, like introduction tier list to get somebody absolutely drowning in that deep end of board games, my go-to is this. We're gonna go from the bottom up. Exploding Kittens. Then we're gonna go to the Resistance, because Resistance is a lot of fun. Then we're gonna go to Codenames, okay? And after Codenames, we're gonna go to Catan, then Ticket to Ride, and then we're gonna start introducing Seven Wonders. Okay, because Seven Wonders is just awesome. And then after Seven Wonders, we're going to go to, of course, Pandemic. After Pandemic, I highly recommend either, and this is almost in the same tier. No, I said I would only choose one. So after Pandemic, we're going to go to Azul. Okay? I know this contradicts a little bit what I said because I was just doing it in general, but now this is my actual ladder. Okay, so Azul, then we're going to go Castles of Mad King Ludwig, 100%. Then we're going to go to Castles of Burgundy. After Castles of Burgundy, Terraforming Mars. And after Terraforming Mars, they're already drowning, okay? They're reaching out, saying, help me. But what they don't realize is you're in there with them, okay? Barely treading water, okay? Which is where we want to be. So... Anyway, that is my chat on how to get friends into board games. If you guys want to, I would be honored if you would, in the comments, put what your tier list is, what games you think people want to, or what you would introduce to somebody, and work your way up until you try to basically get from Exploding Kittens to Agricola. Tell me how you would do it. Okay, even if you don't like Agricola, whatever your Agricola is, whatever your Exploding Kittens is, tell me how you do it. I'm actually super interested because maybe there's a better way. But anyway. That's all for now, guys. Thank you so much. Please, if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe and be a part of this awesome community. I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. God bless.